Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today our mission. It's a bit spooky, definitely sophisticated, and surprisingly strategic. We're looking way beyond, the simple mask and sheet ghost.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Yes.
in 2025 Celebrity Halloween, it really stopped being about just easy disguises. It feels
Oh,
like it officially leveled up.
totally. It's become this high stakes, meticulously curated performance art.
It really has. It feels almost like a mandatory cultural moment now for these stars. We've spent time poring over the sources, the photos, the detailed costume reveals, all the social media breakdowns.
Right, from people like Kristen Bell, Demi Lovato, Mariah Carey, the whole Kardashian-Jenner group, and of course the reigning queen of transformation, Heidi Klum.
We can't forget Heidi Klum.
Never. So our goal today for you listening is really to extract the biggest trends, those kind of aha moments, and maybe the deeper cultural implications that are sort of embedded in these specific celebrity choices.
Because these costumes, they really do reveal something critical about pop culture strategy, don't they? And how influence is, well, how it's wielded in the social media landscape of 2025.
Absolutely. And what we saw this year, I think, demonstrated this extraordinary level of complexity and cultural literacy, too. You really had to know the source material to get the joke sometimes.
Which in itself is a cultural statement, right?
Exactly.
And what's immediately clear, I think, is this monumental shift. It's moved away from just prioritizing simple aesthetics, looking pretty, to demanding, well, conceptual brilliance.
Looking good just wasn't enough this year. You had to look clever.
Yes. If you weren't clued into the deep cuts of digital history or niche film references or even specific global aesthetics, you were probably missing half the content.
Yeah.
The intellectual investment, honestly, it often seemed to surpass the monetary one.
That's a great point. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with what we're calling the new era of conceptual costumes, where, humor, self-expression, and this kind of intellectual flexing really took center stage.
Yeah, this section is really about demonstrating that cultural fluency. Celebrities are using costumes not just as like an outward thing, but as these complex pieces of commentary.
They want to show their audience, hey, I'm culturally literate, I get it, and I have a sophisticated sense of humor.
Gracias.
And the gold standard, I think, for this intellectual approach this year had to be Kristen Bell. She really championed this mashup trend. We have to talk about Carrie Bradshaw's Shank Redemption.
Oh, it's genius. The
Yeah.
genius is purely in the juxtaposition, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got Sex and the City, which is like the absolute peak of aspirational, independent New York fashion, symbolized perfectly by Carrie Bradshaw's iconic pink tutu and that tightly spiraled hair.
Instantly recognizable.
Instantly. And then Belle just merges that completely with the aesthetic of The Shawshank Redemption, which is arguably one of the grittiest, most confined, and most non-aspirational movie settings ever.
Right, presenting herself in that stark, drab jailbird uniform.
Yeah.
It's like high-low humor, but on a cinematic scale. And to understand it, you, the viewer, you have to instantly recognize two totally different intellectual properties.
And understand the fundamental absurdity of smashing them together.
Exactly. It's almost like a little test, isn't it? If you get the reference, you kind of belong to the same cultural club as the celebrity. You're in the know.
That is precisely the mechanism behind this surge we saw in mashup costumes in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way for celebrities not just to be recognizable, but to prove they are in on the joke, that their comedic sensibilities actually require some advanced cultural knowledge. The costume itself becomes a form of cultural signaling.
And that signal was doubled down on with her husband, Dax Shepard, because he wasn't just a random person with her.
No, he was Ferrari Ana Grande.
Right, merging the image of the, stoic Italian luxury car founder, Enzo Ferrari.
With the signature high ponytail and the whole modern pop aesthetic of Ariana Grande.
It's brilliant.
Think about the required literacy just for that one look. You need to know classic Italian industrial history and the visual brand identity of one of the world's biggest contemporary pop stars.
It's niche knowledge combined with mainstream pop.
Exactly. And together, it creates this synergistic, comedic package. You can't just appreciate one look on its own. You have to see the partnership to understand the full conceptual commitment.
Yeah.
It elevates the costume from just a personal choice to this coordinated, high-concept sketch.
Yeah.
And it's designed, really, to maximize intellectual engagement from the audience.
It's fascinating how much effort goes into making what seems like a simple joke, but actually requires, like you said, maybe an hour of decoding if you don't immediately get both parts. I mean, I have trouble remembering my keys some days, let alone needing advanced auto history and 90s fashion knowledge to land a visual gag.
Well, if Bell and Shepard were proving their cultural IQ through fusion, then I think the next step in sophistication is proving self-control by, like, owning your past mistakes.
Ah, okay.
Which brings us perfectly to Demi Lovato's incredible act of cultural reclamation this year.
Yes.
Demi Lovato's Poot Lovato costume was, I think, hands down, the most analyzed piece of cultural commentary this Halloween. We really need to contextualize Poot for anyone who might have missed that 2015 digital storm.
We do, because Poot Lovato wasn't like a planned character. It actually originated 10 years ago. It came from this wildly viral, really poorly edited fan photo of Lovato.
Right. It was super distorted, unflattering.
Totally. Pale skin, exaggerated hairline, really strange proportions. And it immediately became the source of internet ridicule, trolling, and honestly, often genuine cruelty towards her.
And at the time, back in 2015, that kind of digital incident, that digital trauma, it was seen as permanent, deeply embarrassing and totally outside the celebrity's control.
It was like a failure of the digital boundary. It forced her to confront this kind of grotesque shadow version of herself that was created unintentionally by internet users, just out there living its own life. And that's the turning point, right? Because in 2025, Lovato, now 33, she embraced it fully.
Completely. She used heavy makeup, detailed contouring, specific hairstyling, all to replicate that unflattering photoshopped appearance, like precisely.
But the transformation wasn't just physical, was it? It was narrative.
That's the key. The accompanying video performance, that's what really locked in the cultural commentary. The sources mention the specific set design, too.
Yeah, Poot was portrayed in this, like, cramped, really unglamorous garage, surrounded by open boxes, space heaters, bubble wrap, just the absolute opposite of Hollywood glamour.
Total opposite. And it was all set brilliantly, I think, to Sabrina Carpenter's song House Tour.
The irony.
It signals this complete cultural shift. By physically manifesting Poot Lovato, Demi Lovato transformed a symbol of internet shame and trauma into, well, high-value, self-aware comedic capital.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful statement. It demonstrates this generational acceptance of viral digital culture, where the artist takes total control of a narrative that was once, weaponized against them.
And the caption was key, too, wasn't it? Connecting the costume explicitly to her recent album, It's Not That Deep. It serves as the ultimate, like, mic drop to the trolls, doesn't it? It says, look, I acknowledge this moment of digital failure. I am now profiting from it, and actually, I find it funny, so therefore, you cannot hurt me with this image anymore.
Exactly. That self-awareness and control of personal history, that's perhaps the most valuable currency in modern celebrity branding today.
Absolutely. The trauma is basically monetized and neutralized. Incredible.
It really is. Now, shifting gears a bit, away from personal digital history, we also saw costumes that reflected more of a global aesthetic exploration.
Okay.
And Mariah Carey gave us a masterclass in this. She actually celebrated Halloween in Japan this year.
Right. Mariah Carey chose Yokohama for her Halloween celebration, and she went all in, didn't she? Fully immersed herself in the Japanese kawaii aesthetic.
It wasn't just a nod. It was a full cultural integration into her brand, just for the day.
Let's focus on that aesthetic commitment, because this is where that global integration really becomes tangible, visible.
Okay, so here you have a 56-year-old legacy American superstar, right?
Yeah.
Fully committing to a youthful, very specific Japanese look. We're talking a lengthy, vibrant pink wig styled in pigtails.
Some pigtails.
A frilly white blouse, a very short, fluffy blue skirt, ruffled white socks, silver high heels, and even a white parasol.
Wow. That level of detail, it shows a real respect for the specificity of the kawaii style. It's not just dressing up as cute generically.
Yeah.
It's a genre of cuteness with very specific clothing and presentation rules.
Absolutely. And her kids, her 14-year-old twins, Monroe and Moroccan, they coordinated perfectly. They were wearing Japanese-inspired kigurumi, the popular animal onesies.
Oh, yeah.
In complementary blue and yellow colors. So the whole family unit bought into the theme.
So if we connect this to the broader cultural picture, what does Mariah's choice tell us?
Well, I think it reflects a major trend we're seeing. Celebrities traveling internationally to celebrate, yes, but more importantly, demonstrating how mainstream Western pop culture has increasingly embraced and integrated Asian aesthetics and fashion elements.
Right. Things like kawaii culture, which maybe were once viewed as a niche Japanese subculture.
Exactly. They're now globally influential, driving everything from animation trends to high fashion. So Mariah spotlighting it while physically being in Yokohama, it solidifies that cultural integration. And it also signals some pretty smart global branding savvy on her part.
Makes sense. So Section 1 really confirms that in 2025, that intellectual investment, whether it's through conceptual mashups or reclaiming viral digital moments or embracing sophisticated global aesthetics, that was paramount. It was key to generating high-value content.
Absolutely. They are strategically signaling their sophistication, their relevance, to an audience that increasingly demands high-context content. They expect more than just a pretty picture.
Okay, speaking of strategic content, let's transition into Section 2. Here we want to analyze how these costumes serve a really crucial social media function, defining family narratives and tapping into that immensely powerful wave of nostalgia.
Yeah, Halloween has definitely transitioned, hasn't it? From just being a simple holiday event to becoming this, like, mandatory annual content opportunity, especially for celebrity families.
Totally. Family coordination, it creates that highly shareable content. It projects this idealized image of parental involvement.
Mm.
And maybe most strategically, it provides this really controlled platform for them to present a curated public narrative. Look how functional and fun we are.
It's basically an exercise in brand management, just done through adorable shared moments. And we saw a perfect example of maybe relaxing privacy boundaries, just for the sake of that narrative, with Lindsay Lohan's Batman adventure.
Right. So Lohan, her husband Bader Shammas, and their 2-year-old son, Luai, they all coordinated in superhero gear.
Yeah, Lohan herself wore this chic black Batman mini dress with boots and a mask. And then the men in her life, her husband and son, they wore the classic matching caped outfits. Very cute.
Very cute. But the context here is crucial, isn't it? Because Lindsay Lohan is known for being notoriously private. She rarely shares images of her young son, Luai.
Exactly. The source material really highlighted this. It was a rare public photo release of him, which immediately makes you ask why.
Yeah, it raises this fascinating paradox. We could call it the privacy paradox. Why would a star who otherwise maintains this, like, iron wall of privacy suddenly share her most private asset, her child's image?
Well, it suggests that Halloween has become what we might call a sanctioned occasion for celebrity parents.
A loophole.
Kind of. The content value, the adorable, highly shareable family memory designed for maximum engagement. It temporarily outweighs the desire for absolute year-round privacy.
So it's a strategic planned decision. They leak a private moment because the PR and the engagement benefit outweighs the cost of that temporary exposure.
Precisely. It's calculated move.
It's a very modern trade-off, isn't it? Like 364 days of strict privacy, possibly bought by 1 day of really valuable, shareable family content.
That seems to be the calculus. And we see a similar strategy, although maybe less focused on intense privacy, with Khloe Kardashian's Care Bears coordination.
Right. Khloe and her children, True, who's 7, and Tatum, who's 3, they embraced that nostalgic, heartwarming aesthetic with matching Care Bears onesies.
Very on brand for Khloe's image.
Totally. And the Kardashian-Jenner family, let's be honest, they are the established gold standard for this type of coordinated, highly produced family content. It's designed specifically to generate massive engagement.
Absolutely. But the genius, I think, of this particular moment was the sophisticated multi-generational coordination.
Ah, yes. Because it wasn't just Khloe and the kids.
Exactly. Khloe's mother, Kris Jenner, dressed as a complimentary circus ringmaster. She didn't wear a Care Bear onesie herself, which, might have seemed a bit off-brand for Kris Jenner.
Right, maybe a bit too cutesy for the momager.
Perhaps. But she was a core component of the scene. She linked the family together conceptually, under this umbrella of fun and festivity.
So it demonstrates that this family coordination thing, it transcends the nuclear unit. It's become this modern ritual for content creation that involves the whole clan. It establishes a unified narrative for the entire extended brand.
That's it.
It essentially proves that the coordinated family costume has become an essential key performance indicator, a KPI for high-profile celebrity families on social media.
Wow, a KPI for Halloween.
Right. They measure the success of the holiday not just by the fun they had, but probably by the engagement metrics that the content generates afterwards.
And that engagement, it's often highest when the content taps into these deep wells of shared emotion. Which brings us directly to the massive macro trend that really defines so much of the 2025 landscape. The nostalgia wave.
Okay, let's talk about that wave. Nostalgia was huge, specifically drawing really heavily from 1990s and early 2000s aesthetics. That was a massive subcategory. Why? Why the 90s and 2000s dominating celebrity costume choices right now? Why not, say, the 80s or 70s as much?
It really seems to be entirely driven by demographics. The primary content creators and crucially the consumers, we're talking millennials and their older Gen Z demographic, they are currently experiencing this peak valorization of their own youth culture.
Ah, okay. Their formative years.
Exactly. The early 2000s, often called Y2K fashion, it's a powerful, active cultural trend right now, generally. So Halloween becomes the perfect time to activate that emotional connection through these highly recognizable, often comforting, and inherently retro-chic recreations.
So it's not just recognizing the look, it's kind of recreating the feeling of maybe a less chaotic or at least differently chaotic earlier period in their lives.
I think that's a big part of it.
Mm.
Yes. And the perfect illustration of this was Paris Hilton. She recreated a very specific musical throwback moment.
Right. She didn't just dress as a generic pop star.
No. She perfectly recreated the iconic red latex bodysuit from Britney Spears's Oops, I Did It Again music video.
That level of specificity is incredible. That music video came out way back in 2000.
Yeah.
It must have required dedication, precise sourcing, maybe even custom construction to get that look right.
Oh, definitely. And this illustrates that the celebrity nostalgia trend isn't just about general decades like the 90s. It's often about recreating these high-water marks of music and fashion history. It's almost a form of cultural archival performed through costume.
That's interesting, cultural archival.
Yeah, and it's about creating an instantly recognizable moment that immediately registers with a massive cross-section of the internet, because these looks are already so visually iconic, and they're associated with major cultural events from that era.
They provide instant virality potential.
Exactly. Maximum engagement potential. You see red latex, you think Britney, you instantly share it, you comment on it, the social media loop closes immediately. It's efficient content.
That's a great point. It minimizes the risk of a low-context costume that people might not get. You mentioned the 90s and 2000s generally. Were there other specific examples that showed the breadth of this nostalgia beyond, say, music videos?
Absolutely. While Paris Hilton tackled the music industry icon, we definitely saw others leaning into more general early 2000s fashion concepts, things that weren't necessarily specific characters, but rather evoked general aesthetic trends of the time.
Like what?
Think low-rise jeans, maybe chunky highlights, the ubiquitous velvet tracksuits, looks that might have originated from, say, the simple life era itself, which Paris Hilton was obviously a part of.
Right. So it shows that even the generic nostalgia is actually highly specific and visually defined by that period. The costume is just the vehicle to trigger the memory.
Precisely. The memory and the feeling associated with it.
Okay. So we've covered the conceptual depth and the strategic family placement. Now let's pivot and look at the sheer effort and artistry involved, the budgets, the time commitments that categorize the dominant genres defining the 2025 landscape.
Yeah, when we analyzed the entire field, looking at all the reported celebrity costumes for 2025, 3 categories really emerged as the absolute trendsetters.
Okay.
And these categories, they demonstrate not just variety, but a dramatic increase in the professional resources being dedicated to execution. Halloween is serious business now.
It sounds like it. So let's start with the king of all categories. Pop culture supremacy.
Unsurprisingly, pop culture references were the most prevalent category overall, pulling inspiration directly from the current zeitgeist, viral social media moments, blockbuster films, buzzy new TV series, contemporary music industry events.
Anything currently trending.
Pretty much. And this dominance, I think, is a direct reflection of media fragmentation.
Fragmentation. That feels like the key insight here, doesn't it? Because with everyone consuming media on vastly different streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, TikTok, YouTube, whatever's next, a single universally recognized piece of media is actually increasingly rare.
Exactly. So therefore, a costume needs to work harder. Celebrities selected costumes that, yes, provided instant visual recognition for those in the know, but also required that high degree of cultural literacy we talked about earlier.
Right.
The costume has to immediately signal, I am relevant, I am plugged into the current digital stream. It maximizes the possibility of finding a shared cultural reference point amidst all the noise online.
The pressure on the visual language must be immense. You need a costume that works as a powerful, instant thumbnail image on Instagram or TikTok just to break through that constant stream of content people are scrolling through.
It has to grab you immediately.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears pretty dramatically, the second most popular category was horror, gothic, and grotesque transformation.
Okay, this is where things get really intense right
This is where the time and the monetary commitment really hit professional, almost cinematic levels.
This category really emphasizes sophisticated, often quite frightening, makeup artistry and costume design. When you look at these examples, Halloween stops looking like a fun party and starts looking more like a major film production set.
Totally. And no discussion of this level of professionalization is complete without mentioning Heidi Klum again. Her transformation in 2025 demonstrated the absolute extraordinary commitment required to compete at the peak of this artistic arena.
She really is the undisputed queen of Halloween for a reason.
Absolutely.
So describe this mythological transformation she did. What was the commitment required?
Okay, so Klum transformed into this truly grotesque version of Medusa, and the sources indicate the preparation involved a staggering 10 hours in makeup application alone.
10 hours.
10 hours. And the final product, it wasn't just paint and prosthetics. It included mechanical writhing snake hair that actually moved realistically. It created this interactive, genuinely terrifying performance piece.
Wow. 10 hours. That is a full work day just dedicated to getting ready. When we talk about professionalization, that is the metric.
That's it.
No casual partygoers committing 10 hours to makeup. That signals, like, agency-level coordination, specialized effects artists, and presumably a massive budget.
Oh, undoubtedly. And her husband, Tom Collins, he coordinated by dressing as a stone knight, presumably a victim of Medusa, which cemented them as this mythological, high-concept couple.
So it underscores the theatrical element, too.
Completely. This isn't just throwing on a costume. It's an interactive, scripted theatrical event where the performance really begins the moment the makeup is finished.
Okay, I have to challenge this a little bit, though. Is there a point where the performance becomes too demanding? Does a 10-hour commitment like that alienate the average consumer who just wants a fun, maybe replicable costume idea? Or does the sheer effort actually amplify the celebrity's cultural status by showing they're operating on an entirely different plane?
That's a really crucial question. But I don't think the average consumer is alienated. I think they're fascinated. The performance acts as aspirational content. They know they can't recreate it themselves, but they appreciate the artistry, the spectacle. And that appreciation translates directly into engagement metrics for Klum. It elevates her status as an artist who takes her craft seriously, even if that craft is temporary transformation for one night.
Interesting.
And this is why you see artists like Janelle Monáe, who was quoted viewing Halloween as just a framework for what I already do daily as an artist constructing worlds.
Right, it's part of her everyday artistic practice.
Exactly. She also delivered multiple high-production transformations this year, like The Cat in the Hat, various vampire iterations. For artists like her, the line between their regular performance and a Halloween costume is completely blurred. It's all part of the same creative output.
That makes sense. So for Monet, Halloween is just an extension of her existing brand identity. For Klum, the costume is the brand identity, at least for that day.
Well put. Now, the third major category we observed, which is equally significant, I think, for understanding cultural shifts, was animated characters and niche fantasy.
Okay, this is interesting because it shows us what the new mainstream looks like now, doesn't it?
Exactly. A substantial portion of celebrity choices came from anime, animated films, and fantasy franchises that were, maybe even just a decade ago, considered strictly niche.
Right.
This reflects the increasing mainstream acceptance and celebration of genres previously confined to specific fandoms. Anime and fantasy are now globally dominant entertainment forces, and celebrities are clearly responding to that shift.
And the level of detail required for these kinds of costumes often surpasses the general pop culture references because the niche fans, they expect accuracy, right? They'll call you out if it's wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Which brings us to a fantastic key example. K-pop sensation Lysa. She was recognized by many sources as a champion of 2025 Celebrity Halloween.
Why? What did she do?
She did this incredibly detailed portrayal of the Golden Siren character from Netflix's animated anthology series, Love, Death, and Robots.
Okay, now, Love, Death, and Robots is popular, but a specific character from one of its short animated episodes, that feels like a pretty deep cut. Why did that work so well for her?
Well, it worked because the global fandom for that specific kind of sophisticated adult animation is massive. And Lysa, as a global K-pop idol, she taps directly into that massive, globally interconnected fan base.
Gotcha.
Her costume required extensive specialized construction. We're talking armor, metallic paint, specialized headwear. It's a perfect example of maximizing engagement by appealing directly and very accurately to a large, highly dedicated, and frankly discerning niche audience. They appreciate the effort.
And further demonstrating this globalization of niche fantasy, we also saw Northwest and her family's group interpretation of the Japanese band Baby Metal.
Yes. Another hyper-specific reference that requires knowledge of J-pop and its unique metal fusion. But it's one that resonates globally, especially among younger generations who often see no distinction between Western and Asian pop culture streams anymore. It's all just pop culture.
Interesting. So across all three of these dominant categories, pop culture references, horror transformation, and niche fantasy, the unifying factor seems to be this extreme level of professional investment, whether that's investment in time, resources, or deep cultural specificity.
It really is high-stakes content creation disguised as Halloween fun.
That brings us perfectly to our final section, Section 4, where
Yeah.
we can synthesize these underlying reasons and talk about the overall evolution of the celebrity Halloween aesthetic and maybe what it all means for you, the content consumer, watching all this unfold.
Yeah, the 2025 Halloween season felt like a really clear inflection point in the, let's call it the aesthetic evolution and investment strategy for celebrity costumes. They are definitely no longer seen as just spontaneous fun. They feel like strategic annual content releases.
Yeah, if you contrast this with, say, the early days of celebrity gossip coverage, costumes could be simple, they could be spontaneous, sometimes even intentionally lazy or last minute. But 2025 seems to demand a complete professionalization of the costume. We're talking massive teams, detailed construction, transformative makeup budgets like Klum's 10-hour prep time we keep coming back to.
And this is directly tied, I think, to the broader cultural trend toward experiential entertainment and also just the relentless demand for social media content.
Right. If you are a celebrity today, your obligation to your audience feels like it's constant. Constant, high-quality, high-value content. And Halloween has become this mandatory annual content drop.
Often produced months in advance, I'd wager.
I bet. It's an opportunity for them to create this high-value, maybe even evergreen material that lives on their feeds long after October 31st is over.
Yeah, it serves to reinforce their brand, whether that brand is high fashion or family wholesomeness or intellectual humor or artistic boundary pushing. It's a very deliberate projection of identity.
And while much of our focus has been on the massive investment and the deep cultural commentary, it's probably important to acknowledge that, fantasy and whimsy still have a place, right? Offering maybe a softer, more approachable vibe that still fits into the larger strategy.
Absolutely. We should definitely tie this back to Meghan Trainor, who was on our initial list.
Right. Meghan Trainor, for example, she opted for a much softer, more playful vibe when she attended Khloe Kardashian's pumpkin decorating bash.
Yes, she was dressed as a fairy, complete with a pink dress and a flower headband. And this choice, it provided a really crucial contrast to the extreme transformations and the hyperconceptual looks we've been discussing.
It was classic, playful, accessible, an aesthetic designed probably for a more intimate daytime event like a pumpkin party.
Exactly. But again, even within this soft whimsy, we still see the power of coordination within the celebrity ecosystem.
Ah, good point, because she was at that bash where Kris Jenner was also dressed as a fairy.
Right. A complimentary green, leaf-inspired woodland fairy.
So it reinforces a key point. Even the softer, more traditional categories like fairy are used strategically. They coordinate within the context of an event hosted by another major celebrity.
Which ensures that the combined imagery, the two fairies, the ringmaster mom, the Care Bear kids, forms this unified narrative of celebrity friendship and family fun that maximizes media pickup and shareability. It's all part of the same content ecosystem.
Ultimately, all these different elements, the whimsy, the grotesque, the intellectual mashups, the family coordination, they all lead back to one core conclusion about cultural literacy, don't they?
I think so. To reiterate that final point, the 2025 celebrity Halloween costume landscape was just an incredibly complex ecosystem. It's where pop culture literacy, family values, artistic expression, and social media strategy all intersected. There's a really dense field of communication this year.
These costumes weren't just passive entertainment you scroll past. They served as sophisticated cultural texts that actually demanded analysis. To fully decode them, to appreciate the humor in Kristen Bell's sophisticated juxtaposition, or the narrative healing in Demi Lovato's reclamation, or the sheer technical commitment in Heidi Klum's 10-hour prep.
To get all that, you really needed to possess multiple forms of literacy. You needed digital literacy to understand the Poot meme's history. You needed film and fashion history to understand the mashups. And you needed social media fluency just to recognize the difference between a spontaneous party look and a carefully curated content release designed to hit specific cultural touchpoints.
Right. These costumes were designed to be shared, analyzed, and discussed, which proves they are just as much a part of the entertainment industrial complex as any album drop or film premieres these days. They truly are, well, frighteningly fabulous.
Frighteningly fabulous indeed. They've transcended being just costumes. They are strategic brand statements, perfectly executed for the current media moment. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into the 2025 celebrity Halloween landscape, it feels like we've boiled it down to maybe three main strategic drivers behind the major celebrity choices we saw this year.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. First, there was that clear drive for cultural commentary and intellectualism.
Right, seen in those sophisticated hybrid concepts like Kristen Bell's Bradshaw Shank Redemption, which really prove the celebrity is in on the joke, and also in the powerful narrative control demonstrated by Demi Lovato's reclamation of the poot meme. That was huge.
Huge. Second, there was the crucial component of social media strategy and family bonding. That was exemplified by Lindsay Lohan maybe relaxing her usual privacy rules for her son just to create that high-value content moment. And also Khloe Kardashian using the Care Bears to solidify that multi-generational family narrative, the family brand.
Yeah, the family brand piece is key. And finally, the third driver was that clear move toward high-level artistry and also niche acceptance.
Right, where we saw celebrities like Heidi Klum dedicating, again, 10 hours to grotesque transformation, signaling her commitment to Halloween as performance art.
And global stars like Lisa championing complex anime and fantasy constructions, which really signals the globalization of previously niche tastes.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
All this effort, right? All this budget, all this strategic planning, it really begs one final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to mull over.
Okay, what is it?
Since celebrities now invest so much time, resource, and conceptual energy into these looks, treating them as these mandatory high-production pieces, has Halloween actually ceased to be a simple, fun celebration for them? Has it instead become a required annual performance piece that's essential simply to maintain cultural relevance and maximize engagement in this incredibly competitive social media era?
Wow, like a cultural mandate, almost enforced by the audience's expectation and then rewarded by the algorithmic metrics. Something to definitely think about as you scroll through all those frighteningly fabulous costumes, maybe in the link in our bio.
Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.